Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Hiromi Stringer. Very nice to meet you. Hi, and I'm not scary, so yeah, do you want to come a little bit more closer? Okay, very good, very good. And then, yeah, I like having like a conversational style talk. And I'm gonna start talking, and then if you have any questions or like concerns or any comments, please feel free to interrupt or join the conversation or join the talk. Okay, so I'm Hiromi Stringer. Again, I'm a Japanese, and I came to the U.S. 2008, and then I started to study fine arts at University of Texas at San Antonio. Again, it's a 4 years like an art school, and then it's not really a bad school. It's kind of like not a very good school, maybe not an elite school, but it's really a good school with good amount of like faculty members, and then good amount of like equipment. We have about like 30 faculty members for the fine art area, so you can get so many influences if you'd like to transfer to there. Anyway, so I started to study fine art at UTSA in 2008, and then I proceeded to the master's program, graduated, and then I continued working for the college as adjunct professor, and then now I am like hired like a full-time faculty staff. Okay, and then about this show, Time Traveler, Umeyama's drawings from the 21st century. So as you know, Umeyama is a Japanese person's name. Okay? His full name is Shoei Umeyama. Umeyama is the surname. Shoei is first name. Okay? And then this is a guy. And then he is from the 170 years ago, Japan. 170 years ago, can you remember what happened in the US? Maybe there is somebody who is specializing in history, and then like something happened to Japan, like somebody came to Japan to do something. Yes.
Perry came to open the gate.
Yeah.
So Japan, yes.
Perry, Matthew Perry. Are you familiar with him? Kinda. Would you like to introduce Matthew Perry for me?
Well, you need to. Well, basically, Japan was closed relationship with other countries. Only the Dutch in Nagasaki area. So there was no relationship with other countries except Dutch. And then other U.S. ship came to around the Pacific Oceans to get the oil from the whales. And the U.S. want to get the area to get the oil around there. So Matthew came to Japan and then basically asked to open the gate, start the relationship. And then the U.S. the ship was very powerful with right. So Japan decided to open the gate. That's I don't know that he's.
And that was the beginning of the unequal treaties.
So that's that's the kind of beginning of the westernization of Japan. Until then, Japan was a samurai period, right? The weird kimono and our sword. Then Japan decided to open the gate, which means westernized. So moved from samurai era to the kind of modern, westernized side. So everybody, all Japanese study that era, and then Matthew Perry, that's
And it's like, and we want to be a colonial power too, and then they conquered a third of the planet, but we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, basically, yeah, that's correct. Thank you very much for your help. So Matthew Perry opened Japan, and then so that means before Matthew came to Japan, that country was really closed country. So they were aware about like the movement of the foreign countries, but the general people, general citizens, really needed to imagine those like foreign countries. The information were pretty limited, okay? And then Umeyama lived that time era before Matthew Perry came to Japan, okay? And then one day Umeyama was like walking on the street or something, and then he suddenly time teleported to the contemporary South Texas. So from 770 years ago Japan to maybe 2020 or maybe 2017, San Antonio, Texas, or somewhere around here. So it was a huge difference culturally, climate-wise, and then of course like the fauna, flora, etc. Everything is so different. So for him, the world we recognize as kind of ordinary and mundane was pretty like really a weird world for him. So that weirdness led him to start making those drawings. So this time I am only showing those like dog drawings, but before starting to draw those dogs, he drew like really mundane objects such as fire hydrants or phone poles or sometimes fire alarms. They are there, but we usually do not recognize that they are there. So we are kind of like we are seeing but not seeing those like mundane things. But for Umeyama, it was so vivid because it's so everywhere. Okay? And then this time I am showing Umeyama's drawings. Okay? So on the walls we have so many ink drawings, those ink drawings, along with those graphite drawings. So actually what we are seeing here is Umeyama Shoei's drawings, not my works. Okay? So you are eyewitnessing the time traveler's perspective to perceive those mundane dogs. Okay? And then as an artist, I really wanted to create some kind of like a museum settings to show Umeyama's body of work. And then as you can see here, I have so many these museum level drawings. Okay? So if you have studied drawings or paintings, before the what was that? Modernism. For the paintings and drawings, how to capture the spatial depths in the flat surface was the main concern, right? How do you construct those like spatial depths? So usually people use like the what was that? A perspective, or like the what was that? Oh wow! Help me! That thing like some kind of perspective. So the depths. I am forgetting that word. Help me. Overlapping shape, but the farther away, it's kind of getting very good. Yeah, thank you. Atmospheric perspective. Yeah, like a linear perspective and atmospheric perspective were the two main concerns for the painters and drawers. However, this time I am showing very, very shallow space, right? These like blank areas are the museum walls. And then this is such a shallow space. And then I am kind of feeling like some kind of giggle for like challenging the viewer to show those really shallow flat space. In addition, this is my personal problem, but I am from Japan. Maybe this is not the only reason, but whenever I go visit contemporary art museums, sometimes, I should say often, I feel so dumb because so many times I am standing in front of this artwork and then it's so tough to really get the point of this work. That kind of moment really happens a lot to me. So I'm gonna say this out loud. Sometimes really contemporary arts in general, I cannot understand them at all. even though I teach contemporary art at higher education level. So maybe this should be erased. No, yeah. But I think it's okay to say that out loud, even though I am teaching and then making contemporary art. You know, if I cannot understand something, that is what it is. It is what it is. I accept. But the more I encounter that kind of weird feelings, I started to see some kind of relationship on the museum wall. So let's imagine here is like a painting or something, and then I cannot understand. And then here is a museum label. Okay, I walk to here, and then I look at the painting, like, I can't understand. And then I go here and then read title, medium, and then maybe there's some kind of like the explanation about the work. And then I go back, still I cannot understand. Sometimes I can see some kind of relationship, okay? So I started to feel that kind of artwork and then label relationship as some kind of like the weird diptych situation. Are you familiar with diptychs? So diptychs are the art term, so often used to describe like two works should go side by side to create some like a conceptual meaning or image meaning. And then I started to see that diptych situation on that museum wall. That artwork and then these museum labels needs to go together to create that feeling of art. Okay? Yeah. So if you are familiar with the art historian, like Arthur Danto, maybe you will like remembering that like the art word, like a essay. But so anyway, I started to see weird power balance between the museum labels and artworks. So here I am recreating that kind of weird feeling. So we have these drawings created by Umeyama. So Umeyama was a guy from Edo period, but he was really not an artist. Okay? And then those drawings are stored in Natural History Museum or somewhere. So they are not really considered as fine arts. And then now here we have these like museum label drawings to explain what they are. And then together they can exist inside of the fine art world, I feel. Okay, so this is going to be a philosophical question for everyone, okay? Are you ready? Okay. What is the definition of a dog?
Loyalty? Loyalty?
But cat can be loyal, and then, you know, so nowadays we can distinguish dogs from cats.
Right.
But like, how do you do that? You know, we can get to know what is dog, what is cat.
Oh, they stink.
Oh, both of them? But you know, I think this is really a philosophical question to really think about, like, how do we distinguish dogs from the other animals? You know, some animals, yes.
Oh, I was going to contribute that dogs are like your best friend, while cats have staff.
Well, yeah, but yeah, it's a cat. And then actually, I was like researching or like a deep internet research about how Edo period people perceived dogs and cats. And then I found that the people from Japan, like 200 years ago, considered like the, do you see any like fluffy things? Yeah, these things, like fluffy, smaller Pomeranians or Chihuahuas or those like lap dogs. So Japanese people 200 years ago considered these existence in between cats and dogs. So their perception of what is dog was pretty different from our perception. And then don't you think it's really a great like a switching way of idea that thinking them at the in between dogs and cats, right? Really, these are dogs, but usually they are treated really nicely and well kept. They got brushes and then they go to spa, right? Better treatment than like dogs. So I am kind of challenging the perception of the idea of like a dog. Okay. どういたしましてありがとうございます。Thank you very much for coming.